Okay, as I finish up our mortise for the girt, I can't stress enough that you should always be checking for square with your combination square. It's better when you're doing a mortise to err on the side of caution. Try and have a tendency to leave a little bit more material towards the bottom, so that means let that mortise taper a little bit towards the bottom, get a little tighter. You can always take more material out if you need to, but you can't put it back. So you should always err on the side of caution. And just be very conscious that when you're going down in with your chisel, that you're keeping that blade straight. Don't be kicking one way or the other. You want to make sure it's nice and straight. But again, if anything, pull the handle a little towards the outside if you're worried, so that way you can leave a little more material towards the bottom, and then we can always check with the combination square and take it out later. Again, never want to take too much out. So while we're back here, I'm going to finish up this mortise. And to get to the opposite sides, again, you can come in from one side, come in from the other. You can clean up those corners. You always want to make sure the corners are nice and square. What can happen a lot of times with people doing timber frames for the first time is you may have a tendency to leave some material down in those corners, and by not having a nice square mortise, it's going to cause your cross beam or your girt to not fit properly. It won't seat properly, which means that it won't go tight to your column. So you always want to make sure that everything is nice, square, and clean. If you need to, you can do a little scrape here at the bottom with the chisel just to clean it up. Make sure your corners are all nice and clean. Let's do one final check for square. Oh, I got to take a little more off the bottom over here because they're not quite square. Again, like I said, you should always err on the side of caution. You can take more material out, you can't put it back. And a good sharp chisel just allows you to do it by hand. No need for a mallet. Quickly clean this out. And we'll do a check. Everything seems good. So now that is a complete mortise for the side beam or girt. So then that makes this column a complete column because we have both the mortise and bearing ledge ready for the cross beam and our mortise for our girt.